What do you do when the Justice League just isn't enough to fight against magic? Welcome to the Complete Story Series. We take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read it dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Well guys, you asked for Justice League Dark, so here is Justice League Dark. What this is a team that is built to fight against the magic in the world that not even Superman can fight against. This is a different kind of tale, a tale of magic and mystery, of light and dark. You may have seen the name of this title and assumed it was about a dark Superman or a dark Batman, but it is neither of those things. This is a story of people that are cursed and people that are gifted. In front of you right now is June Moone, a girl that is wandering the streets confused and lost, thinking that she's seeing demons and devils around her. But once she walks into a nearby diner, she sees herself dying over and over on the news in a busy highway. Dozens of women that look just like her are getting run over, and the whole diner realizes that they are watching this girl die a dozen times, and she is right there. Madame Zatanna sees things are happening as she decides to call in her own team, a team equipped to deal with a battle of this magnitude. She starts with Shade the Changing Man. He wields the Metavest and it allows him to alter reality as he sees fit. In front of him right now is his girlfriend, and she's crying because he's going to leave her again because he's being called upon. But she doesn't realize that she isn't real. He gets lonely, so he made her out of nothing. And as he begins to leave, she begins to melt away, screaming, "I know what this is! I know what you've done to me! Was I even real?" And he answers her with, "You were as real as I wanted to make you." The Justice League arrive at a cabin in a field where Enchantress is held up. Magic is one of their weaknesses, but they're the Justice League, so they need to stop her. Before they can do anything though, the Enchantress starts a whirlwind of teeth that tear through Superman and injures Cyborg, and Wonder Woman realizes that Enchantress's magic has defeated them. Zatanna and Batman are watching from the watchtower, and Zatanna tells Batman that he should let her go. This is magic, it's her realm. She'll wrap up the Enchantress and they can carry her away. Batman agrees that that's not a bad idea, but he insists that he's going along. So as he tries to join her, she binds him with her reverse magic and leaves him in the watchtower. Meanwhile, Constantine feels the energy shifting and changing, and he finds himself being swept away by a magical vortex. Elsewhere, the girl known as June has managed to find the home of Dawn and Deadman. And on the other side of the world, Shade arrives in the home of Xanadu and he wakes her up as she has collapsed on the floor. Xanadu explains that the Justice League is attempting to battle the Enchantress, but they failed. She can see into the future and she sees a new team, a gathering of men and women each with their own specialty. While Shade tries to tell her that she's batty, Xanadu looks off into the distance to the future that she can see, and she sees a pile of dead bodies. Zatanna arrives in the town where Enchantress is located on her motorcycle, and she sees the destruction that the Enchantress has caused. But very quickly, Zatanna realizes that she's not enough to take on the Enchantress herself, so she puts herself into a magic protection bubble. Meanwhile, back with Deadman and his girlfriend Dawn, we go back to June standing in the doorway, and she is here because she's looking for Deadman in a crooked house on a crooked lane. June explains that she is a part of the Enchantress. She's in the shadows in the back of the Enchantress's mind. But a few days ago, she was suddenly free and she was able to do whatever she wanted. She came here so the Deadman can possess her and see if she's actually free and if the Enchantress is still inside of her. He does possess her, but he doesn't find anything. The only odd thing he finds inside of her is a repeating nursery rhyme about a crooked man in a crooked house on a crooked lane. After trying to convince Dawn to sleep with him while possessing the girl's body, Dawn leaves the house furious. A Deadman frees June and explains that there's nothing inside of her. To which June thinks will only make this worse, because without her inside of the Enchantress will go insane, and she'll hurt anyone that has helped June. Dawn, on the other hand, is already in trouble as she drives into the night and then sees in front of her nothing but a freezing darkness. She jumps out of her car and turns into the avatar of peace, Dove. Back with Zatanna, she's sitting in the middle of the street this whole time, unconscious and from the looks of things, apparently dead. It's gained so much attention that even the paramedics have arrived to take away the dead girl that's sitting in the street. But Constantine walks up. She ain't dead. That's a parlor trick of hers. Zatanna, it's me, John. Wake up. She snaps out of it and they head to a hotel where she explains that the Enchantress is losing her mind and the Justice League tried to stop her, but they were unprepared for the battle. Meanwhile, with Deadman and June, the wall next to them begins to swirl out of control. It's a portal. And while June freaks out that this must be the Enchantress, it turns out that it's Shade trying to contact Deadman and asking Deadman to enter the doorway that he made so that he can join Xanadu and save the world. But June is terrified of that wall and she runs off to the roof, and Deadman chases after her, not entering the portal. So while Shade continues to try and recruit individuals from Madame Xanadu's team, and Constantine is trying to figure out what exactly is going on, Deadman and June decide to go for a drive. They're just driving so that they can talk and try to sort things out, but they find a body in the middle of the road as they're traveling through the woods. And when they run to it to see if this person is okay, the Enchantress stands up and reaches out for June. "I just want to eat you up!" Deadman gets between the two of them, telling June to get back to the car, but the Enchantress throws a tether around June's neck, demanding that they be together forever. Deadman sees that he has no other option, so he jumps into the undead corpse that the Enchantress is using, and he possesses it. But inside, he sees that there is nothing here. It's just an empty husk that the Enchantress took over. So he bursts out of her, tearing her apart. June turns to Boston Brand. "Maybe we should go back to your apartment." And he tells her that he has no idea what's waiting for them there, so maybe they shouldn't. And he's right. Trouble is at his apartment as John Constantine has arrived, and he's sitting there, waiting for Deadman. Meanwhile, back with Madame Xanadu, she's trying to have Shade find a replacement for Deadman, and she's still trying to build this supernatural team. The Enchantress is losing her mind, and her husks are bringing back as many June Moons as they can find. But they aren't the real ones, they're the extras. And the real Enchantress, the one that is going insane, is getting furious that they can't find this June. But she begins to sense that someone is approaching outside. And outside of the shack stands Zatanna, ready to fight the Enchantress and her husks. But she can't stand up to them alone, and they quickly overwhelm her and they begin to try and tear her apart, until she vanishes into thin air and lands in front of Shade. This was Shade just trying to teleport more members to the team that Xanadu wants, and he sees that he's gotten it wrong again. "You're not Boston Brand, and you aren't dead." "No, and aren't you concerned that I materialized out of thin air?" Zatanna asks him. "No, you'd be surprised how many times this happens to me." Back in Xanadu's parlor, a certain gentleman has also arrived because he's tired of being pulled towards Xanadu. John Constantine wants to know what game she's playing this time. And back with Deadman, he sees the portal open to him once again. Realizing that this is someone calling to him, he takes June's hand and he begins to walk through it. But then he and June both realize that she can't cross the portal, and as her protector leaves, the Enchantress's husks begin their attack on June. John Constantine gets the full story from Xanadu finally. The Enchantress is living inside of her host, June Moone, and Xanadu is the one that separated them. Xanadu was trying her best to put things right and stop the flood of mystical energy from taking over the world. And Xanadu is the one that separated them. She was trying to help the Enchantress, but what she didn't realize is that June Moone is the one that was keeping the Enchantress and her magic at bay. Now, Xanadu is trying to put things right by stopping the flood of mystical energy from the Enchantress from taking over the entire world. Meanwhile, June has been pulled to the field outside of the shack and she's running across it, trying to find an exit, trying to find her protector. And in front of her, she sees John Constantine himself lighting a cigarette. "Come to me, love, I have this." While the group is finally assembling, Shade wearing the metavest, Zatanna, the master of reverse magic, and Deadman, the spirit superhero, Xanadu explains the purpose of everything. And then she warps the entire group to the same field with the same shack that John Constantine, June, and the mystical energy that is the Enchantress are currently residing in. Their first challenge is to get past the magical teeth that is trying to tear them apart, but Shade is able to hold up a protection spell and keep it all back. That is until the Enchantress's magics begin to show him what he really wants, his girlfriend. He begins to slip and lose himself into the fantasy of it all, so Zatanna gives him a big kiss to snap him back into reality. But it wasn't fast enough. The teeth begin to touch Zatanna and Xanadu, showing them their true fears. The Enchantress is taking down all three of them at once. Meanwhile, a little ways away from them, Constantine is pacing around in his protection circle with the teeth and the husks flying around him. He tells June that he was rune casting back in the UK when suddenly he found himself being pulled around to all kinds of key locations and to all of the people involved in this. "You're the last piece of this jigsaw. I understand what the others are here for, what their purpose is, and what Xanadu is trying to do. But you, how long were you trapped in the Enchantress?" June thinks about it. "Years, a kind of buried personality. And then I was suddenly free and I had nothing but a rhyme going around in circles in my head." "Stop there, a rhyme? It must be the spell that Xanadu used to get you out. I hope you remember the words, love." So he recites it over and over, the complete rhyme. and she falls to the ground screaming in pain. What are you doing? Why does it hurt? I'm trying to stop a witch from destroying the world. I don't give a damn about the world, but if it goes, I go with it. You look like a nice girl. Don't you want to save humanity? But Deadman finally gets free from everything that's going on and he makes it back to June. That's enough! If you're so tough, try hurting me! Oh bollocks, a bloody hero. Back with Shade, Zatanna, and Xanadu, Shade begins to pull them all away from the witch's magic, trying to put them somewhere safe, when suddenly, Mind Warp appears, one of the individuals that Shade was considering recruiting in the place of Deadman. Back with Deadman, he jumps into John Constantine intending to possess him and harm him, but Constantine isn't so easily possessed, and he easily rejects Deadman's soul. Constantine then steps forward and he completes the rhyme. June screams out in pain, and then the magics of the Enchantress resolve and vanish. Sitting there in this random field is now the Enchantress, and everyone's fine. After that, they all go back to Xanadu's hidden base of operations, and Deadman demands to see the Enchantress. If he understands this correctly, June is trapped in there and he wants to see her. But Xanadu says that she can't do that, and Constantine is now just pissed. You made a mess because you couldn't stand the Enchantress anymore, and then you called all of us to clean up your mess. I don't want to see any of you again. I have my own life to lead. And he smacks her fortune-telling cards off the desk. She pleads with them all to come back, but they don't care. They all just leave. Xanadu is worried because she knows that she's going to need this team again. She's going to need the Justice League Dark to handle things that the normal Justice League can't. I know that this one's a bit of an out there story, guys, but personally, I've always enjoyed the Justice League Dark, and maybe you do too. This one was Volume 1, so if you want to continue the series, just go ahead and pick up the next one and you'll see what happens. It does continue with Zatanna, Deadman, and Constantine, while the rest of the cast constantly changes around. If you want to chat about this or any other story with us, follow us on Twitter @Comicstorian or Instagram @Comicstorian. Also, you can check out these other videos on the screen right now, you just might like them.